In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a subclass from a superclass. And we're going to do that in a little bit different method. Now we're going to work with individual class files, which we haven't done before. So first thing we're going to do is recreate our employee class. So I'm going to come up here in BlueJ and type new class, enter the name. We'll open the editor. We'll delete the standard code that it provides, and we're just going to copy in the code that we already have. Now I'm going to modify this a little bit. I'm going to take out salary as a field or data member, and we're going to leave our superclass employee to just have two fields or data members, name and department. So let's compile that to make sure that everything works, and it does. So we're going to close that. Now we're ready to create the subclass for that. So we're going to type new class. We're going to call it hourly employee. Oops, got to spell that right. There we go. Click OK. Open the file. And again, let's just delete all the definition. And we'll begin to write. So the way we make a class a subclass is by using the keyword extends. And what that does is that tells the Java compiler that hourly employee is a subclass of the superclass employee. So when a class is a subclass, we don't have to provide all of the data that is part of the superclass. That's already going to be recognized by the compiler. So instead, all we have to do is add in any other data that we want to have. So we're going to have two data members or fields, wages and hours. The next thing we want to do is create our constructor, and that's the other main thing we need to demonstrate. So the first thing I'm going to do is, for parameters, I'm going to have the name and the department, and then we're going to have, whoops, I spelled double wrong, a parameter for hourly wage, the wage, and a parameter hours worked for the hours worked, or hours is our field. Now here's where you have to do something a little special. And let's modify this a little bit here. Let's call that imp name. And I got to let's fix that. So let's take a look at this before I continue. Super is a special method call that calls the constructor method in the superclass that extends our subclass. So when I write super imp name department, the compiler knows that I'm calling the constructor for the employee class, which I've defined earlier on in the other class file for employee. So I don't have to go any farther in creating the constructor for that. Then I can just continue on and assign data to the other fields like so. Let's close off the constructor. Then let's write a couple of methods here. get wage and get hours, just so we can see that when we actually create an object and run a program, we'll actually get something back. So let's compile this. All right, now when you see an error like this, you need to figure out what the problem is. So let's go back and look. Let's compile, let's close. Let's go back to employee. Let's modify right here. Let's take out salary. We're not going to use that. We're not going to use that because the superclass employee will never actually be instantiated. So now let's compile again. That should be fine. Let's close the file. Let's go back to hourly employee. Let's compile again. We have a simple little typo there. Let's compile again. Or fix that other typo. And again, I could edit these out, but it's nice to see how errors are dealt with. There we go. So now our subclass file is also set. Let's create a new class. We're going to call this test employee. Let's open the file. We'll delete everything inside. We'll recreate our main program. And we're going to do then we have the hourly wage, which we'll say is 25. And the hours worked, as we'll write 40. And then we're going to display the wage. Then we'll have to make sure we called it get wage and not get wages. If it did, we'll have to fix that. I'll leave it just to see what happens. And then the hours worked. I believe it is hours. I can go back and check. Let's go ahead and change the wages also, and we'll see how that goes. So that completes our little test program. So let's close it off, and now let's compile. Okay, so it probably is get wage, so we'll change that like so. Compile again. No errors, so we can close. Then we'll run it. And there we go. The wage is $25 per hour, and the hours is 40 hours per week. So, also notice in BlueJ that hourly employee, there's an arrow. You can barely see it because of superclass. We can move that out of the way, and let's move that out of the way. And you can see how hourly employee there's an arrow pointing to employee, indicating that hourly employee is a subclass of employee. So you can actually use BlueJ as a way to map out the relationships between your classes. So that wraps up this lesson in creating a subclass from a superclass. And now we're going to move on to the next lesson where we're going to look at another example of inheritance.